So our mission is to protect and preserve Colorado's 14,000-foot peaks through active stewardship and public education. CFI got its start back in 1994. Founding organizations were Colorado Mountain Club, Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado, Rocky Mountain Field Institute. Loretta was there. Concerned individuals too, just kind of coming together and saying, hey, we really need a group that is specifically for 14er protection. And I believe the Peak Steward program, please chime in, Loretta or Terry, if I'm wrong here, but I believe the Peak Steward program started in 2005 or 2006, I want to say. We have a full-time staff, just 5 of us that work full-time. We have 2 people that work 9 months out of the year. We have 22 or 23 seasonal crew members coming in this year that just started on Monday getting trained. We have a board, and we work with anywhere from 700 to 1,000 individuals in a season. We partner really close with the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management. Loretta designs and helps us with pretty much all of our trails at this point. Just wanted to talk about the field season to give you all a heads up about some things we're doing this year. We'll be on Mount Elbert for the 4th year out of 4 years, doing some construction up really high. We've made quite a lot of progress on the on the east ridge of the South Elbert Trail. So we'll be up there doing the last year of construction and restoration. We'll be back on Columbia for the 5th year of 5 years, working on construction and restoration. Really technical, beautiful rock work going on up there. We'll be on the 2nd year of Grays and Tories with just a 2-man crew doing some trail delineation and maintenance up there. We'll have a small 2-person crew doing a concentrated effort down on some of those Lake City 14ers like Red Cloud, Sunshine, Handy's, Wetterhorn, Uncompahgre. And then we are not running volunteer projects this year for trail maintenance, sadly. It was a really hard decision for us, but this will be the first time in 26 years that we will not be working with volunteers for trail maintenance. But we will have our Adopt a Peak crew out there going to 15 or so peaks statewide. So we'll still be getting some good work done out there. You know, we want to keep running the Peak Steward Hiker Education Program. That's why we're all here today. And, you know, full disclosure, we don't fully have permission from the Forest Service to have CFI ambassadors out there helping to educate hikers, but we are in the process of getting approval from the Forest Service so that we can do this year. We'll also be placing our trail counters out there. This year we have 22 infrared cameras to keep track of hiker use on 14ers. We started placing these infrared cameras out there in 2014. And we've essentially seen hiker use numbers increasing about 6% a year. I know you can't believe it, that there's more and more hikers on the 14ers every year. But we're seeing, you know, 353,000 hiker use days in a season. Quandary beat out Bierstadt for the first time in 2018 as far as the most hiked peak. So what I find when I'm out there is that, you know, there's a lot of people out there, they don't want to come out and trample tundra or cause harm. They don't know. They don't know how fragile the alpine life zone can be. And that's where you all come in. And so I'm going to hand it over to Terry.
Hi, thanks, Anna. And hi, everybody. It's really nice to see all these new folks here who are doing it. we really had a great year last year. I think we almost doubled our climber contacts last year over the previous year. And we were hoping that we would be able to maintain that momentum this year, which is obviously going to be a challenge. We're going to talk about COVID-19 a little bit later. But with all these new folks who are signing up, I think we have a chance to match last year, because I'm guessing there will be lots of people on the mountains if the last week or so since the national parks opened up is any indication. People are flocking to wherever they can get to. Anyway, just want to say quickly, reemphasize what Hannah said. Our job as Peak Stewards is to really help with the education portion of the CFI mission. And so that's what we're there for. We are there to talk to people. It is a temptation for most of us, except for old people like me, to climb the mountains when you're out there in a 14er. But want you to remember that your job is, when you're there as a Peak Steward, your job is education and talking to people. So you don't want to let your own hiking or climbing interfere with taking the time to talk to as many people as you can. And on a place like Bierstadt or Quandary, it should not be any difficulty at all for you to talk to 200 or 300 people a day on a busy weekend day. So that's what we want to encourage you to remember. I'll probably say that too many times today. And lastly, just remember that, especially now as it relates to coronavirus and COVID-19, remember that you're not going to be out there on your own as a Peak Steward. You're representing CFI, and you're actually, to some extent, representing, or at least out there under the authority of the Forest Service. So you need to be doing the things that are recommended to demonstrate our concern about maintaining distance and so forth. But as I said, we'll talk about that much more later. So having said that, I think what we'll do is turn it over to Scott to give you a quick overview of our main set of rules, ethics, concepts. That's the leave no trace concepts.
Well, thanks, Terry. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Again, my name's Scott Goldberg, and I'm going to go over the leave no trace stuff really quickly. If you want more information, they do have a website, the leave no trace folks, and a lot of good information, a lot of tutorials and things like that that you could definitely check out. What they have is the leave no trace 7 principles. And I'll go through them really quickly, but pretty much this is what we're keeping in mind when we're educating people on the trails, on the 14ers. Because like Terry said, or like Hannah said, a lot of them don't go up there with the idea like, I'm going to trample it, I'm going to overrun it, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they just don't understand. So planning ahead and preparing, educating that part of it's pretty important, because if the people don't know and they don't understand, at least if they can read about it or access information online or somehow figure out where are they going, how are they going to get there, what trails are available to them to get on the mountain, that helps a lot, because if they just show up and they're like, oh geez, I don't know what I'm doing, they can go off helter-skelter. They have to realize what skills and experience they have. So like you'll see a lot of them on mountains where they really don't belong, and they're like walking around willy-nilly, not understanding what's going on. They also have to understand to show up very early, talk about the storms that come in at noon, getting off the mountain before then. All of those things come into planning ahead and preparing. Traveling and camping on durable surfaces, that's our biggie, because we build those trails so that they can walk on them. Before those trails were there and it started getting very popular to climb the 14ers, people were just going up and following game trails and such like that. When I moved out here in 1978, that's kind of what we did. But now that we're actually building and maintaining trails to keep the people on them is like our big project, and that's important, especially early on in the season when there's like snow and water on the trails. People want to walk around them so they don't get their nice new boots muddy. We try to encourage them to stay on the durable surfaces. We also talk about peeing and pooping on durable surfaces, not pooping so much, but peeing, finding a rock to pee on a hard surface so that the salt-starved animals that are up in the alpine will not dig up the tundra to get to the salt. So if you encourage people, hey, pee on a rock, and they go, why? It's like, well, because all these animals that are running around up here are looking for salt. So that way they won't dig holes and we won't have an issue that way. As far as pooping and things like that, we encourage people now, instead of digging pits and burying it, to pack it back out, to carry wag bags and camp and pack everything back out. Nothing will ruin your day worse than to go around a corner and try and look into the weeds and see a bunch of toilet paper hanging in the trees and things like that. It's really gotten bad. What we talk about is like, okay, if it's your front yard, if you had a front yard and you built a nice sidewalk for people to walk on, and then people would get off of the sidewalk and hang out on the grass and trample the grass and poop on the grass and all those things, that's what's going to happen in the alpine. Unfortunately, the alpine does not respond as well. It takes, and Loretta will go into that, I'm sure, but it takes several years for the alpine to recover from 5 footsteps walking across it. It's not like your front lawn. So we talk about that. Dispose of waste properly. That's kind of what I was talking about. We used to say take only photos and leave only footprints, but now we don't even want to leave footprints. Like we talked about walking on the durable surfaces, and we talk about picking up your waste and any trash that you might bring with you. And I even, most of us carry a big plastic bag and we pick up everybody's trash and come back down with a huge trash bag by the end of the day. Because people go up there and they just kind of throw it around, and you'll see that a lot. Leaving what you find. So you take photos of things that you really think are cool. You don't take things from the mountain, especially at some of the mining sites. People will come across things that they think is cool, and they take it. Well, then the next person who comes up there doesn't get to see it. And plus, there's a law against taking artifacts off the mountain, and they can get in trouble for it. So you can tell them about that. But it's better to leave things behind. Minimize campfire impacts. Now, most day hikers won't be making campfires, but if you get into the backcountry, a lot of the further 14ers that you might camp out at, talking about people using existing campfire and camping places that have already been set up, not building a new one and not making more fire rings and more of those things. I don't do a campfire ever when I'm camping. I bring a little burner, and you can encourage people to do that, to bring their own little stove and not make a campfire, because again, you get that many people in the backcountry and they're all setting up their little things, and they all move rocks and move wood and construct things as they're going, and that it really impacts the backcountry, and it people who come after them don't get to enjoy it as much, and it really doesn't, it turns it kind of into a little city, and that's not what we want. Respecting wildlife, a lot of that has to do with understanding that it's their place to live, not ours. And so if they're there because they live there, and they have to eat and they have to exist, and anything we do that interferes with them kind of impacts that. Like they can't live with all of us upsetting their apple cart, so to speak. So understand that they have their own thing going on, and you can observe them from afar and take photographs and things like that. But really, to bother them is not a good thing during the summer season when they're trying to eat and stay alive. Be considerate of other visitors is a big thing. Especially on some of the more crowded 14ers. You'll hear people yelling loudly. We've seen people carrying boom boxes in the old days, or they have the stereo blasting. I followed some people up once. They were talking about the stock market. It's like, we're all going into the backcountry to enjoy it, and understanding that there's a whole lot of people with you. and acting accordingly is really important, you know, so that they can enjoy themselves. Those are leave no trace principles. Again, if you want more information, go to their website. They have a whole lot of cool stuff on there, and how to teach people as you go along, as you're going up. You can probably, you know, come across a person and, you know, hit one of the 7 with them and say, hey, you know, you might want to stay on the trail. We built it just for you, and, you know, get those nice shoes dirty and enjoy your hike and allow somebody else to come with you. So a typical day in the life of a peak steward, and I can only speak from, you know, what I like to do and things like that, but depending on what peak you're at, you know, if you're on one of the front range peaks where there's a lot of people, you want to get up there pretty early. It seems like, you know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning isn't even too early anymore, but you go up to Grays and Torreys and that road is parked up. You know, you get there at 6 o'clock and it's parked up all the way down to the parking lot down below. So you want to get up there early. Like this photograph shows, greeting people at the trailhead is an easy way to get involved and get them talking. And like you know, it sounds weird, but I always hang out at the bathroom up on Bierstadt because there's like a line of 300 people waiting to use the bathroom. It's a good place to talk to people because they're kind of like they can't go anywhere else. So you tend to or stand where the trail begins, you know, at the bottom of the peak, and talk to people as they're getting out of, you know, getting their stuff together and talking about the mountain and things like that. And then you can go up a little bit, get on the mountain itself, and go to a place where you see people congregating, and maybe that there are different places on each mountain that are like that, and you can kind of scout that out and either, you know, just wait for people to come up on you. And a lot of people, since you're wearing a hat or something that identifies you as a peak steward, maybe they'll approach you, or you can I just say like, hey, how you doing? How's it going? And then they say, oh, you're from CFI. Holy cow, I heard about you. Never thought I'd meet anybody like that. And so, I mean, you just engage them, talk to them, see how they're doing, see what kind of equipment they've got. Do they look like they're dressed correctly, that they've got the right stuff with them? As far as what I bring with me on a peak steward day, I'm overpacked. I've got like a 40-pound pack, you know, just because that's just the way I am. And I, you know, carry extra water for people and extra food and extra trash bags and everything like that. And then my mentor, when I went into the mountains, taught me that you should always be ready to bivvy, even if you don't think you're going to. But if you get 100 yards away from your car, you should have enough to bivvy for the night. And so I've got enough that I can survive if I have to. And if I have to stay with somebody for the night, we can, at least if we're not comfortable, at least we can survive. So anyway, you go up a little ways and you start chatting with people. Is Terry back yet? Uh-oh. Well, anyway, I'll keep going.
You're doing great, Scott.
Oh, thanks. You know, go up a little ways, find a spot. Sometimes I will summit. A lot of times, you know, I'll go up to the top and I'll hang out up on top because that's where people hang out as well. And then they talk about how it was coming up, how it was coming down. On your way up, you'll come across a lot of hikers who have abandoned their partners. I call it like a divorce hike or a split up hike, because you'll see people going up together, and then they'll, you know, one of them decide, well, this just ain't for me, and they'll be sitting on a rock somewhere, and, oh, where's your partner? Well, they went all the way up to the top because they had to summit today, and it's like, oh, this is not good. And so, you know, you engage with them and talk to them, and maybe see how they're doing, and maybe they need some help, you know, getting started to go back down and things like that. And again, we'll talk about the fact that we're not search and rescue, and that's not our mission. And that when you engage in something like that, you're not covered by the Forest Service or by CFI, but if somebody needs your help, you know, you can do what you can. And a lot of times the best way to do that is to to summon help, like carry a spot or a DeLorme or something like that, get a hold of the proper folks to come up and help. But a lot of times just talking to somebody and making sure they're okay, just kind of rest them assured, you know, and you'll see a lot of those people gathered along the trail on the way up. Like, where's your partners? Well, they all left me. So you can talk to people at the top as well. A lot of the things that we will talk to people about is the weather. They'll say, oh, what do you think of those clouds over there? And it's like, well, you know, you can talk to them about how it's gathering and what time they should consider getting off, or gee, I heard lightning. Now it is time to get off, because if you can hear it, it's not far off. They'll ask you, oh, is it far to the top? And, you know, most people will lie. They'll say, oh, yeah, you've got it. You're, well, you got to be honest with them and see how they're doing. Do they look like they are a climber, like a hiker? Are they going to in shape? Or it's like, well, you know, it'll be here next week. If you don't make it to the top, you can always come back and do it again. It's been here a long time, that type of thing. Do I want to talk about what to expect yet, or should I cut it off now?
Yeah, so I just talked to Terry. He's gonna try logging on again, but yeah, we can just keep kind of plugging away here if you want to talk about some of the things you see.
Okay.
There.
So really, what you can expect, and it's all interacting with people. There it is, interacting with folks. You're there to talk to people. Like Hannah said, or Terry said, we're not there to summit. You know, although that might happen. And you know, I tend to summit a lot more than a lot of people, but only because that's where I wind up by the end of the day. But I don't get there till late, and I don't get down off. I'm like the last person to leave. I'm like the Walmart greeter, you know, hi, welcome to Walmart. And then, oh, everybody's leaving. I'll shut the door behind you as you're leaving, and kind of scour the mountain, you know, kind of like a backcountry ranger or something, make sure everybody's okay. And
you're the sweep.
Doing well. Was that Terry? Nope.
I just said that makes you the sweep.
Yeah, kind of the sweep. Yep, that's it. Anyway, so what we're looking for are trail cutters, which are people that don't observe that we make these nice little switchbacks all the way up the mountain. Instead, they want to cut right down the middle of them. And that tends to damage everything. And then we have to go back up there and fence it off and do all kinds of things to renovate the land. So we like talking to people who are trail cutting. And, you know, explain to them, hey, you know, we built these trails the way they are. And if you get, you know, you come up here on a Saturday or Sunday on the weekend and there's 600-700 people. And if they all start trail cutting pretty soon, you know, this place will look like a disaster area. And just, you know, impress upon them that they want to stay on the trail. That a lot of people, you know, came out here during the summer and built it just for them. And so, you know, try to elicit their cooperation with things. Dogs off of a leash, you'll see a lot of dogs, and I have a dog, as you know, because Frisco's always around here barking. But I know that dogs, you know, people will think that their dog is the greatest dog in the world, and that their dog won't do anything wrong, and that their dog can run rampant wherever they go, and that they think they're on voice command, but they're really not. If dogs see something worth chasing, they'll chase it. If dogs see another dog, they will run after it and say hi and maybe get into a dog fight at 13,000 feet. They will see somebody that they like and they'll run up on them, and maybe that person doesn't want to see your dog. So, you know, impress upon people that if you're going to bring your dog up there, that they leash it up. When I give the talk at REI, I talk to people about bringing their dogs up, and I give them the consideration like, okay, if your dog gets hurt, you can't call search and rescue for a dog. You're going to have to carry your dog back down. Now, Frisco's 105 pounds. I could never carry him back down. So you have to take that into consideration, that if your dog breaks a leg, it's going to be a long trip with your dog back down the mountain. And dogs will run and break their legs and do all kinds of things at altitude. So that's something to consider if they're going up on a 14er as opposed to just hiking with them. And dogs also leave their poop pretty much anywhere they want. They're not gonna bag it up and bring it back down. I've seen people bag their dog's poop up and then leave it on the side of the trail like they think there's some kind of service that picks it up and brings it down for them. I don't understand that quite a lot. But anyway, dogs can be a problem. But also we'll see a lot of dogs on leash. People will have their dogs leashed up, and you want to thank those people like, hey, wow, that is so cool that you've got your dog leashed up, and I really appreciate it. And I like talking to dogs, and I love dogs. So, you know, hey, can I say hi to your dog and all that. Talking to unprepared hikers, that was the next one. That's always something that we talk about, and people will look at you like, hey, help me out here. You'll say, hey, have you ever been up here before? No, this is my first 14er. It's like, oh, I can tell you're wearing flip-flops and carrying one water bottle, and, you know, do you have a hat? Do you have, you know, sunscreen? Do you have water? Do you have anything? And, you know, you talk to people as they're on their way up, and they start getting exhausted. They're having tough time breathing at altitude. You know, they're getting altitude sickness. Came across somebody with pulmonary edema one time. You know, so I mean, there's a lot of people who come up. They fly right out here from the Midwest, and that day they're up at 14,000 feet, and they think it's pretty cool. And a lot of things can happen to them because they've never been at altitude before. And then lots of questions. That was the last thing. And they will ask you everything. And the more you know, and like when Loretta gives her talk in a little bit here, all of those things are the things that they'll ask you questions about. Like, wow, what's the geology behind this alpine environment? What are some of these animals that we'll run into? How many times have you been up these 14ers? You know, what's the history behind them? Is it, you know, so knowing as much as you can about the mountains and about the area is always a cool thing, because those are the things that they're going to be asking you. And I'm probably running over, but is that about it, Hannah?
Good job, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, public speaking is not my forte, you know.
Isn't that what you're
Internet
training us to
connection.
do?
Can everyone hear? And are things slow? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear well and see well.
Yeah, this is Mike Morris. I can hear fine and I see your visuals fine. So you're coming across loud and clear to me.
Cool.
Is Terry back on here yet?
Awesome. Just checking. He's on, but I don't think his mic's working.
Well, I guess, should we keep going?
But thanks, Scott. You're doing great. Do you want to talk about some teachable moments, what you do with people that are maybe sort of not excited to talk to you, or?
So here we go here. Before you start, establish a rapport to open the door. I mean, I surprised my family when I got involved in this stuff. I mean, like I said, we've been out here since '78. Used to hang out at Halia bars all the time, go hiking, do all that stuff. And, walked on Bierstadt before the planks, just like somebody said. You know, so when this thing started, and one of my climbing buddies got me into it, talking to people really wasn't my thing. I wasn't really an outgoing individual, kind of liked going hiking to be away from everybody and not have to talk to them. But this is the exact opposite. This is like a social thing. You know, you're like the Walmart greeter. That is your job, to contact people. The more people, the better. You got to spread the message. My daughter was really surprised because we did a lot of climbing together. And all of a sudden I was talking to everybody on the mountain, and she came home and she called up, you know, she's 36 years old now, but she called my wife and said, "You're not going to believe this, but Dad's talking to everybody." She says, "What? Not our guy." You know, it's like, so talking to people, you know, you'll develop your rap. You'll know, you know, you'll try a lot of different things, and sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't. But when you talk to 600 or 700 people on the mountain in a day, you know, different things will click with different people. A lot of times I'll see a Wisconsin hat or a Green Bay Packers shirt or something. Hey, because I'm from Wisconsin 42 years ago. So I'll start with that. You just start an in. But a lot of times you'll see somebody, you know, laboring along, having a tough time. You'll say, well, you know, you seem to be having a little bit of a tough time. Can I make a few suggestions to you? You know, you've never been up here before. Or if they're doing something that you want to correct, like coming down trail cutting and things like that, or littering or letting their dog run, you know, just, hey, how's it going? You know, I noticed that you did this. You know, with 600-700 people up here today, if everybody kind of did that, we'd have a mess on our hands. I hope, you know, I'm not trying to come down on you or anything, but we would really appreciate you doing this. This is a better way to do it. Because like I said, if it was your front yard and everybody trampled all over your grass and didn't use your sidewalk, you'd probably, you know, be angry. Well, the mountain's going to get angry, and you know, nature always bats last, or something like that. You know, you come up with things as you go along. And then you talk about how do you know, this is how we'll improve the situation. Or if they're doing a great job, and if they're doing, you know, everything wonderfully, you know, hey, how's it going? You got this. You know, you're like Ed Viesters here. You're world famous. You got to be a famous mountaineer. You know, you're doing everything right. You got to look at your equipment's great. Everything's good. You know, and that's a lot of that. If you go into the backcountry mountains where you don't get a lot of the front range folks on a weekend, a lot of the people back there actually are mountaineers, and they know kind of what they're doing, and you really don't have to go into much. They'll just ask you more about the situation in the area. Like, hey, do you know anything about, you know, Wetterhorn? How's that class 3 going up there? Well, it's, you know, have you done class 3? Do you know what, you know, let's talk about 3-point climbing. Let's talk about that. You can kind of advance your conversation because their knowledge is more. You know, one time we were up on, where the heck was that? Ellingwood, I think it was. And a guy came rambling up, and he looked at me and goes, "Are you from CFI?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he says, "Well, you know, I'm from the Colorado Mountain Club, and I'm here to change out the thing that you put your name on when you get up to the summit logs." And he says, "I didn't think you guys were still around." And I says, "I didn't think you guys were still around." We were laughing and stuff. So then, like, people would come up, and we just sat up on top, and we were like hitting everybody that walked by us. Hey, you know, you leave no trace and this and that. And he'd do his thing, and I'd do my thing. So it was kind of cool meeting other groups. The same as when I went to Chicago Basin, rode the train down there. They had a group of volunteers that spend the whole summer there, and they alternate weeks. Like, they'll go spend a week up there, and then the next crew will come up, and they'll spend a week, and then they'll spend a week. So it was cool interacting with other groups that do the same thing, and see how they do it. And again, like, if you have a chance to hike with another Peak Steward, you know, we all do it kind of differently. So I've always picked up things from various people on how to do it and how maybe not how to do it. And like I said, different people react differently to what you're trying to tell them. You know, we always says, like, we're not the policemen of the mountains. We're kind of like the greeters, like getting people involved, getting them to worry about the mountains, so that there's another generation after us, after we're done with this, that they will carry on. Anything else, Hannah?
No, that's great, Scott. And I saw Terry's still having a problem with his mic, but he wanted to add a couple things. Oh,
can you hear me?
back.
There he is.
I discovered the problem. It has to do with a technological idiot involved at this end. So, so yeah, I had written some stuff in the chat thing, but I'll just cover them really quickly, going back to what you would want to do for a typical day up there. I did talk about wearing attire, and you'll all get name tags that you can wear. And you might have noticed in the photographs, people with light tan shirts. I wear a shirt like this one that I've got on now. Even though that's not the official Forest Service color, it fools people. and the name tag's there. I wear a cap like this that says Peak Steward on it. I'm usually carrying a thing like this because as I am up there, I keep track of how many people I see, and I have a little clicker where you can just click it to count the number of people you see. Then in this notebook, I tick off the number of people I actually talk to. I also tick off how many dogs did I see, how many were on leash, how many were off leash. I do also tick off if I saw people who were unprepared, and I just say whether I had a chance to talk to them. And lastly, I usually, if I see people cutting trails, how many of those did I see, and did I have a chance to talk to them? All of that stuff goes into the Peak Steward log report that Hannah will talk about in a few minutes, that we ask you to fill out after each day up there. So, but if you can just make it clear that you're somebody there who's not just climbing, then a lot of people will stop and talk to you and say, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? And that opens the door to have a conversation. So that's all I want to add at this point. We should probably keep going.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention in the
All right.
past we've done some mentoring where an experienced steward will pair up with a new steward and just kind of go out for the first day and just, you know, you sort of get into a spiel or a rhythm, and it's nice to have somebody that's done this a bunch just kind of hold your hand a little bit. I've also had new stewards go out together. You know, obviously we are in a pandemic, so we have to talk about that. And things are going to look a little bit different this year as far as everything that we do in our lives, in our peak stewarding. So we at CFI are taking COVID-19 very seriously, and I'm currently in the process of typing up a Peak Steward like operating procedures and protocol that I plan to submit to our board. We have some health professionals and public health officials, doctors, nurses on our board that have organized a subcommittee for COVID-19 that have advised us and really helped us through this season decision making, basically. So I'm going to work on that manual and submit it to them for approval. We've also submitted risk assessments to the Forest Service, and Loretta is helping me get those to the right people. We basically need to get permission for each district that we plan to go to, and it could take time. So, as soon as we get approval, and as long as we're allowed to move forward, then I'll send the Peak Steward log and that sort of thing. But I also want to talk about the risks and some of the things that we're going to be some of the protocols that we're going to be implementing this year to keep folks safe. Wearing a mask is required during Peak Steward duty. That is something that we're doing with our staff. I've been wearing one at the office. I'm here alone today, so I do not have it on, but we've been wearing them in the office. Our seasonal crews are wearing them and standing 6 feet apart. We'll be wearing them while we're working. And so we do want to require Peak Stewards to wear them. I think it sets a good example. We need to stand 6 to 10 feet apart from hikers, from each other if we're mentoring. Carry hand sanitizer. I'm sure you're all carrying hand sanitizer everywhere and washing your hands. It's kind of been our lives the last couple months. Peak Stewards have always been really generous, in my opinion, both giving out food and water and stickers, and that's just something that we're not going to be able to do this year, unfortunately. I'm not going to hand out any hiker educational materials and that sort of thing. We can't carpool together unless you're two stewards that live in the same household. And then, obviously, if you have any underlying health conditions or work with vulnerable populations, this might not be the year to be a peak steward, unfortunately. And we'll have some guidelines on, who is at risk. And at this point, I'm sure you're all very well informed, but we'll just make sure that we have that outlined for everybody. I see the need more than ever this year as far as peak stewards, but it's also really important to just keep each other safe and do this safely if we're going to be out there. We are seeing a lot of destruction up there, firsthand destruction. My colleagues went out and people are trying to stay away from each other, so they are walking way off trail onto the tundra. Nobody has masks on. The tundra is going to get trampled this year if we don't get some folks out there advising people. So we have packed trailheads. We have people not wearing masks. We don't know if bathrooms are going to be open or if people are going to be collecting trash. People are throwing their waste behind the houses at this point with overflowing trash cans and people walking over tundra. So there's a lot of issues going on out there. We have some great talking points that Loretta gave me a really nice PDF or a really nice handout that I would love to share with you all. Just some really good points to make when we're contacting hikers. Leave No Trace also has this one-page PDF that is good. I always look to them for some guidance. That's about Leave No Trace recommendations for getting outside during COVID-19. Some of the points that I think are going to be particularly important to emphasize this year are stepping on a durable surface. It's okay if you need to step off trail to move out of the way for somebody as long as you step on a rock. And stand there and wait for people to pass. You don't need to walk on the tundra to pass folks. I think it's going to be important to practice patience if you're hiking a 14er this year. Wearing a mask is going to be huge. I think that one could be emphasized well just by saying, hey, I've been out here since 5 a.m. and I've seen 150 people go by this morning. So just know there are 150 people on this trail today, and I recommend wearing a mask if you're going to be out there. Carry and use human waste disposal bag. Expect closures. Bathrooms could be closed. Trails could be closed. We really don't know in some cases. No one should be picking up anybody's waste, dog poop bags, trash bags. No one should have to do that. This was in Loretta's handout, and I think it kind of just really hits home for me is take personal responsibility to protect yourself, those around you, and nearby communities. Some of these mountain towns maybe cannot handle an influx of sick people in their hospitals, and we want to be respectful to them. Each county is also going to have its own public health guidelines and orders, and it's important for you to know the regulations in each county. On this handout, there's a link for every single public health order by county that Loretta has provided us. That's very helpful, and I'll get that over to everyone. And you need to look them up and read them. Before you go out, I do not plan on memorizing them, but I plan to know what they say before I go out, and it's important that you all do the same. Some paperwork stuff. Thanks everyone for getting those waivers to me. The JHA is especially important for the Forest Service. It's a job hazard analysis. And I've been collecting those for you, Loretta, and we'll get those over to you. If you're having any problems with it, let me know. We'll figure out some other ways to get that signed. The Peak Steward log I will send to you once we get permission to go out and be Peak Stewards this season. I'll send an updated link where you can fill it out electronically. I'll also send you this paper version, which is nice to just fill out while you're out there. Some people just bring like a tiny little notebook and write in the notebook and take notes once they kind of know what we're asking for. Priority Peaks is an appendix that goes inside of the Peak Steward manual, and that just basically gives you a schedule of where CFI is working. So you could look at it and say, oh, there's going to be a crew on Quandary for the next 8 days. Maybe I'll go this Saturday and help out the crew and stand, 50 feet below the crew and just take some of the attention away from the crew. So instead of the crew being stopped and being asked, what are you doing, 150 times, you can be that person that says, hey, I'm here on behalf of CFI. They're building this retaining wall to support the tundra, and talk about whatever issues you're seeing with them. I'll get to work on that operating procedures manual so we all know how to move forward and do this safely this year. And we do want you to look official and be connected and be an ambassador for CFI. We want to get everyone, we have hats, we have some name tags to give everyone. Returning folks, I got these really nice, they were donated by REI, and they're like a sun shirt basically. They're super soft and they're going to be great. And I wanted to give those to the people that are coming back again this year, and thank people for being back here again. And pictures, I have to say this, emphasize this, I would love to get pictures of Peak Stewards. We want to put more pictures of you in the annual reports and online. And I know it's really hard if you're out there alone to get a picture of yourself being a Peak Steward. But if you're out there with somebody else, or you have an idea for a blog, or you see trash or something, send me some pictures. I love seeing them. I thought it would be really cool to do like a campaign where we took a bunch of pictures of people in masks and did like a fun, quick slideshow to just kind of set a good example and say, look at all these people wearing masks on 14ers. But I love your suggestions. I've heard a lot of really good suggestions. We're working on getting some signs, both like a sandwich sign or an A sign that could be placed at a trailhead that you could stand by, and also some banners potentially that will go on CFI trucks that just kind of have some of this COVID-19 messaging loud and clear, and L&T messaging, of course, too. Whoops. So,
Hey, Hannah.
I'm sure that, yeah.
Hannah.
Yep.
Just wanted to mention, if you flip back to that last slide, with the log on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Just when everybody gets that, when you get one, I think Hannah said she's going to send those to everybody, at least an attachment to an email. Again, just sort of look through all the things that we're asking you to do, because I didn't cover all of them. I forgot about, for instance, counting the number of vehicles at the trailhead when you get there, and then counting the number of vehicles when you leave, so that the Forest Service can get an idea, and see if I can get an idea from that as what's the vehicle pressure at the trailheads. And then, of course, all the other stuff, dogs. You won't see very many horses, you won't see very many campers, but you will see dogs, you'll see unprepared hikers. So just look through this form, and it will help you understand these are the things that we would like you to watch for when you're out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry,
That's
for saying that. Lots of information to go over, and we're trying to cram it all in here. So But honestly, I haven't seen anything like it before with people walking off trail. And we asked people to do 4 days in the field this season, but whatever you can do, we thank you, and we can't thank you enough, basically. And I'm here as a resource, and you are my volunteers this year. I don't have any other volunteers. I will be in the field more, a lot more, which will be really fun. But I also love working with volunteers. That's my job, and that's what I love to do. So I'm here for you. Please use me and tell me how I can support you in this, and how we can all support each other during the next year. We're gonna do
And
questions.
one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just one more thing I want to add in regard to what Hannah was just saying. Obviously, we don't know yet which peaks will be available, and so we can't commit to who will be mentoring at different places. But at least for now, start to think, especially if you start looking out into July and August, start to think of what days you would commit to going up there. I find if I schedule it on my calendar, even if a whole lot of other stuff comes up, if I've got a day that I said, okay, I'm going to Peak Steward on these 4 days over the course of the summer, then I go do it. So in your own mind, start making those commitments now as to what's the time you'll commit to this. And then as we get peaks opening up, we'll be able to provide you even more support so you can decide, okay, this is where I'll go on that day. But you need to sort of get your head around now, you're really going to do it, and when are you going to do it?